I live in a block of flats in England, and I was on my way literally 3 minutes down the road to the local pub. I was meeting my boyfriend and his brother there, as they had just finished work and were on the train back home. My boyfriend had already rung me, saying that it would be about 10 or 15 minutes until they got there. I had been sent there early to grab a decent seat near a TV, as the England rugby was due to be on. Anyway, I'm walking down the road, looking at my phone, when I hear a woman shout, "Miss! Miss! Hello, miss?" and vaguely waving in my direction. I look up, and there's this 25 to 28-year-old woman with a massive box at her feet, and she's now waving me over. Me being stupid, went over to see what the problem was. "Miss, can you help me take this box to my car around the corner? It's really too heavy." The woman is smiling at me while pointing at the box. The woman is smiling at me while pointing to the box. Now, as soon as she said this, a thought crossed my mind. I'm a small girl myself. Why would she be asking me, and not some men? Does she really think that I could lug this massive box with her? "Sorry, I'm busy." I try to brush her off while turning away. "Please, I'm desperate. I have to get home to my kids. You have to help me, miss. It's really too heavy." She's now yelling at me while squatting, trying to lift the box. I start getting annoyed now. "Look, lady, my boyfriend and his brother will be here any minute now, and they can help you lift the box. I don't know why you ask a small girl on her own, and not one of the men on the street. I'm busy." Yes, I did feel bad for saying this to her, but alarm bells were ringing in my head. I couldn't understand why she had asked me, when there were men on the street literally queuing up to use the cash machine and walking past. The woman scowled at me. She gave me pure chills, pursed her lips, and took her phone out. I continued to make my way to the pub. I was 2 shops away, and I could clearly see one of the regulars outside smoking. I looked back over my shoulder, just in time to see her lift the box up on her own, and walk down the alleyway that was right behind her. What the hell? This was about 1.5 years ago, when I was working at Buffalo Wild Wings. I was a front of house girl, meaning I did phones, takeout, and hostess duties. Oftentimes, we would be swamped and I would have to take phone orders while I was in the back bagging to-go orders. This was one of those times. I answered the phone. "Hi, thank you for calling Buffalo Wild Wings on... How can I help you?" "Hello, can I speak to Nicole?" Instantly, I got chills, but calmly asked which Nicole he was asking for, since the bartender was also named Nicole. He was asking to speak with me. "I was in your store last week and it was really busy. You were the cashier, and after I got my food, I went to the 7-Eleven by your store, and the guy in front of me was saying how much of a cunt Nicole at Buffalo Wild Wings is." I was baffled. My skin and blood ran cold. I didn't know how to respond. I stumbled over my words, trying to be professional, but alarms were going off in my head. I asked why someone would say something like that about me. "I don't know, but it really made me mad because I thought you were so cute, so I went off on the guy. I started cussing him out and saying, 'How dare you say that about a woman?' Again, the alarms were going off. My ex-boyfriend had recently seen me at work, and I was thinking this was his work. He was a sociopath. I described my ex and asked if it was him that said that, and the man denied it. I was shaking at this point. He kept going on and on about how nice and cute I was, and how I didn't deserve that. Then came the nail in the coffin. I took a picture of him on my phone. "I'll come see you at work, and we can see who it is, and I'll put a good word into your manager." This was extremely odd to me, but I was so desperate to get off the phone, and my manager was in the kitchen not 3 feet away from me, and I had been on the phone for about 15 minutes at this point. I told him my entire week's work schedule. I don't know why. It just came out, and instantly I regretted it. "Great, I'll see you this week." Again, I have no idea why someone would say that about you, but I defended your honor. He literally said that. That entire work week was filled with anxiety, and panic attacks. At this time, I was still biking to work every day, and that entire week, my boyfriend was scared to death that someone was going to show up and try to grab me. He devised ways to use his bike as a weapon to actually defend me. Thank God, that creep never actually came in. Probably because he knew we had cameras everywhere, and what was he seriously going to do? That situation didn't happen. I got off the phone and told my manager about it, and he just looked at me in disbelief. Definitely one of the creepiest phone calls I've ever taken. I quit a few months later, so creepy phone guy who defended my honor, I'm glad you never came back. Let's never meet again. When I was in 5th grade, we moved into a twin brick house on a busy street. Our house was very well maintained when we purchased it. We had a freshly paved driveway, a nice garage out back, and the sweetest neighbors you could imagine connected to us. The house across the driveway was the stuff of nightmares. It was inhabited by an old balding man, 2 bearded ladies who never spoke a legible word, and Pablo. Pablo was a few months younger than me and made it clear from the beginning that he had a major crush on me. Our first encounter was when we were 11. I was outside, drawing with chalk in the driveway, when I looked up, and I saw a pair of eyes through his blinds. As soon as our eyes met, he quickly sunk away, leaving the blinds shaking. A few days later, I was playing outside again, only to see a camera hang out the window. I heard a few faint clicks. As time went on and middle school started, we officially met. We shared a few classes together. Some days after school, we'd hang out in one of our yards and play basketball or whatever we could think of. I noticed, however, from time to time, he'd still take pictures of me. Of course I told my parents. They brushed it off, saying it was innocent. He's just a weird kid. When I was 14, I got my first part-time job. Soon after, I bought my first cell phone. He had my number. Every now and then, he'd send me a picture of myself standing inside of my house. He must have seen me through a window. He'd take pictures of mundane things. My family and I having dinner, sitting out back, or me heading downstairs in the middle of the night to get a drink. Again, these were all brushed off. He began asking my whereabouts at my house. If he didn't see any lights on, he'd ask where I was. If he saw all the lights on in the house except my bedroom light, he'd ask why I wasn't home. One night, I came home from work a little late. He texted me as soon as my light went on. How was work? We texted a little bit. Eventually I stopped responding and shut my light out. Sweet dreams, little bird, lit up on my phone. This became a pattern. Even when I changed my number, he got it right away. From that point on, he got worse. More pictures, more stalking. He had a weird obsession with dating me. A few times, he threatened to kill himself if I didn't sleep with him. I moved out in 2013, and the stalking seemed to have stopped. Last May, my mom called me at 6 in the morning, saying his house was being raided by the Department of Homeland Security. Yesterday, this happened. This little shit. I'm so glad the stuff of nightmares is locked away. Pablo, let's not meet again. This happened to me just last night. My wife and I just finished packing some things up from our apartment. The apartment we're moving out from because the neighbor threatened my wife. Yes, it's that kind of neighborhood. We loaded everything up and drove to the gas station a few blocks over. I gassed up and went inside to grab some cigarettes for my wife, as well as a couple drinks for us. As I walked back to my car, I was approached by a white male in his late 20s to early 30s. At first, I couldn't hear what he said, but I assumed he was asking for money, as people tended to do outside of gas stations. I told him I didn't have any cash on me, which wasn't a lie. He shook his head. Nah, man, I don't need money. I want to give you money. Can I get a ride to the grocery store? I politely declined and told him that was in the opposite direction of where I was going, which wasn't a lie either. That seemed to satisfy him, so I went to my car. I opened the door and handed my wife her drink, at which point she sternly told me to get in. I asked her what was wrong, and she once again said, "Get in, now." I sensed a bit of urgency in her voice, so I got in. As I was pulling away from the pump, I asked her again what was wrong. "I'll tell you when we're away from here. Something's about to go down." Once we were on the road, she told me what happened. While I was inside, she noticed two individuals speaking outside of the gas station store. One was a black male in his late 20s. The other was the man who would approach me. When I was at the register, she noticed out of the corner of her eye that one of them was peeking into one of the cars. She was a bit unnerved, so she continued to watch him. She saw him looking into the other cars at the gas station. She couldn't see exactly what he was doing, but they seemed to follow a pattern. The first guy would look inside of a car and then look up at his friend, presumably giving a signal. The friend would then nod in acknowledgement. They did this with every car at the station. Look inside, look at friend, nod. Look inside, look at friend, nod. He then moved out of her sight, so she watched him through the rearview mirrors. He was moving behind our car now, right into the blind spot. She looked over at the other guy. Nod. This set off every red flag that wasn't already flying, so she turned to look at the man behind the car. He must have seen her move, because he was out of sight when she turned around. By this time, she was wondering what the fuck was taking me so long. I walk out shortly after, and she just about flips as one of them approaches me. Other people had walked out before me, and I was the only person they talked to. God damn it. Don't fucking talk to him. Get the fuck over here now. My wife knows that I'm a nice guy, sometimes too nice for my own good, so she was genuinely worried that whatever bait he was using would cause me to bite. Luckily, I came straight to the car after that. There's no telling what their intentions were, but my wife has good intuition when it comes to these things, and she could tell that they were up to no good. I'm just glad that we're safe, but it chills me to think of what would have happened if I decided to help him. To the man who wanted the ride, I don't know what your intentions were, but let's not ever meet again.